What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Unmasking Greatness. I'm your host, Chris Kokoris, and today I have a very highly anticipated guest that I've been wanting to bring on before we even talked about doing the podcast recording. And I told him I was going to bring him on, and today is the day. You guys are going to get a ton of value from this individual. It is Austin Hodges, and we have met back at a gym facility in Spartanburg is where we initially have met each other and got to know each other and actually helped him a little bit kind of get some momentum with his coaching business, and then he took it and ran. So it's really cool. But I think you guys are going to get a ton of value from this because we're going to be talking about some hot topics, the benefits you guys, everything from, nutritional diet styles to supplementation, GLP-1s, workout tips and strategies. So if you feel like that you are stuck or getting started, get your notepad ready. There's going to be a ton of value in here. And even if you are doing well, we're going to probably give you some ideas and some tips to actually excel a little bit faster. So let's start, man. Austin, I'm glad to have you on the show.
Absolutely.
Let's tell me a little bit about how you got into health and fitness and bodybuilding as well.
Yeah, so I say it probably started back in officially, I guess if you want to say probably 2011 or so, somewhere in there, 2011, 2012. 2011, I tore my ACL, lateral and medial meniscus, and then had surgery on it and got it fixed. A year later, had a complication from the first surgery, had to go back under the knife and get it fixed, cut it back open. Then another year later, so 3 years in a row, I tore the ACL and meniscus, all that stuff again. And
Jeez.
then at that point, the doctor was like, you know, you're pretty much done playing any kind of um, athletic style, I guess, uh, extra or just any kind of like high performance where you're having to like shift and move around, like fast paced stuff.
Mhm.
And so it was either sit at home and do nothing or go to the gym and find something to do. So I obviously chose the gym.
Yeah.
And the college that I went to, which is Erskine College, which is in a town called Due West, South Carolina. It's kind of an odd name, but um, there really wasn't much to do there. I was a commuter student, and so I would, just go to class and drive back home. But the only thing to do there was to either be a very academic focused individual or play in some kind of sports, which I couldn't play in anymore,
Yeah.
or go to the gym. And that's kind of what I did. And then since then, I spent 3 or 4 years in the gym, and then one day just decided I wanted to compete, and then it's kind of just had a domino effect from there. So, and we're still going. So,
Yeah. Do you feel like you got into, I guess the reason obviously you were already training. So like the thought of competing, was that more so of I'm starting to look good, why not do something? Or did someone kind of inspire you like, hey man, you need to get on stage?
it was more or less having that competitive nature ever since I was a
Mm,
kid. Playing Parks and Rec, baseball, football, basketball, playing golf at a young age. I was always in some kind of competitive sport. And then when I graduated, I didn't really have anything to compete at toward anybody else, I guess. So I had to find an outlet to channel that. And bodybuilding was just kind of just there. It kind of made sense. I was already in the gym. I was already very deep in the weeds as far as like nutrition goes and working out. I was on bodybuilding.com and looking at
heck
all those
yeah.
articles and taking notes and watching the YouTube videos. And um, back then, I guess it was Steve Cook, Sadiq, CT Fletcher. Um, that was probably 2013, 2014. So that kind of got me immersed into this. I'm like, okay, I can do this. It's going to take me a little bit of time because I was a tiny
Yeah.
individual back then, but it's like I'm going to give it my best shot.
Heck
So
yeah. I mean, those are the same people I was looking up to in the industry. And social media, I think, was really kind of taken off around that time with Instagram,
yeah,
so a lot of instead of just going on bodybuilding.com, there's more stuff available to
yeah,
us at that time.
yeah.
Little side tip for or info on you guys with Austin here. I didn't find this out till like a couple years after we've already been talking. Um, he doesn't just play a little golf. He's actually pretty good at it. So,
uh,
tell him like, he told me he did not only just one hole in one, but like a couple. Am I right?
yeah, I've got three.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty nutty.
yeah.
I mean,
I mean, so I played, and it's a. I was actually telling this story to somebody the other day. When I was like 9 or 10, my best friend at the time, She had a set of clubs. I didn't even have a set of clubs, but we were always, hung out at each other's house. And she got a set of clubs for her birthday or Christmas or something. And we just decided, hey, let's just go play golf at the local golf course. And so either my dad or her dad would drop us off at the golf course at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. We were 10 years old at the time. They would give us $10 to eat lunch across the road at the Mexican restaurant. So we would walk all day. I would carry the bag for 2 or 3 holes. Then she would carry the bag for 2 or 3 holes, and at lunchtime we would stop, walk across the street, and grab some chips and dip, and we got waters. It was like $3, but we would eat 2 or 3 baskets of chips, um, and then continue playing until somebody come and pick us up at dark. And from there, she ended up going to be a D1 athlete, played for the Gamecocks, and then I tore my ACL in my senior year. And I'm not saying that I was great in any capacity and had any kind of like D1 offers or anything, but my senior year I was in a brace. My swing drastically changed at that point, and then I had an option to play at Erskine, but by that point I was already 1 or 2 years out of it and was kind of transitioning into bodybuilding. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna carry my meals and get my
Yeah.
lifts in, and I was really trying to prioritize one or the other, and obviously I chose bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I do still play from time to time. It's just not as often. But I will say I think the secret to me playing well when I do play is because my mobility sucks, and so the club just has one path. I'm so stiff that the ball just goes straight. Because after
I was thinking completely opposite.
I mean, after a couple holes, I get loosened up a little bit, and the ball starts, fade a little bit, drawing a little bit. So if I can keep that stiffness in my physique for at least 9 holes, I'm good.
Dude, that's great. I love
But
it. I'm trying to get into some golfing, but I get to top golf, and that's about as far as I've been able to get to. So maybe one day I'll get on a course and do something.
and this is no hate to anybody that does this, but I haven't brought my clubs to Top Golf.
Oh,
I've
people do.
I've seen those people, and hey, kudos to you. It's a very expensive driving range, though. If you want to go do that, it's 45 an hour.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's their normal rate's $45 for an hour. But I mean, I'm not to that level yet, but I enjoy it when I can.
Yeah.
So
It's super impressive, man. I mean, you're a natural athlete in general, and again, when I used to see Austin before we even really was talking, I'd watch him in the gym, and the intensity and focus that you would have in every single lift was really impressive, especially leg day, which is even more impressive considering how many surgeries you've had,
yeah,
and then you just had one recently too,
yeah,
right?
back in December. Yes,
Yeah,
so that's what 5 months ago,
yeah.
somewhere in there. So
So it's impressive to see you just like continue to come back and be resilient to that because a lot of people can just get be like, dude, my knee's shot, I'm done. Or I'm never training legs again. I'll just do
yeah.
upper body. I mean, that's a really easy like cop out.
And I think it kind of goes back to maybe that's why, and I'm not saying that my training is perfect by no means, but why my training is so detailed and so dialed in as it is now, because I know if I was to train on the sloppier side of things, I'm more prone to having injuries.
Yeah.
So back when I first started, I was super careful with any kind of squats, anything that required a hinge at the knee. So at that point, I was like, if I'm doing such careful if I'm paying such careful attention to the movements, with my knees and my legs are blowing up from it, let me try this with back. Let me try this with chest, and I mean it works for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. So I guess at that point, again, at the gym, when we started talking more, obviously it was more just like training and I was competing more at that time too. So
yeah,
that's kind of where we kind of connected. And eventually you started asking me a little bit about coaching.
yep,
Um, Not me coaching you, but
yeah,
you
yeah,
coaching others. Because
yeah.
a lot of times when you start working out and you start building a physique, people start asking you questions.
Oh yeah,
Or they're like, hey, can you help me get like you?
yeah,
So I'm sure that's kind of how it opened the door. And, I started at that time, for myself, I just hired my first mentor.
yep,
And I was basically still kind of learning, but I got a lot of progress from that, which then I was just kind of sharing with you. So I remember you'd come and just ask me something like, try this, do this.
yeah,
You do and be like, oh yeah, it worked.
yeah,
And eventually it was enough to where, I don't know, I think in 6, 7 months you quit your job and start going full time?
Yeah,
It
somewhere
was
in there.
it was
Yeah.
less than a year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And that was it was the decision to where, I mean, I've been coaching since 2019, but not full time. I mean, it's just, 5 or 10 clients, a handful, enough to keep my interest in it, I guess. And then, once I started, working with you a little bit and getting some help from you, I pretty much, I told myself, I said, hey, I'm going to give myself 6 months. Um, if I'm going to make this my full-time career, I'm going to have to hit this certain revenue mark, bring home pay each month. I don't care if it's a dollar short. It's got to be 6 months in a row. In month six, it was double. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, it's time
Which
to
is
move.
which is funny because I remember you telling me that, and you called me and he was like, "I know this is a personal question, but when do you think is a good time to quit your job?" And I was like, "Dude, that's a very personal question, but I think the way you did it was the same way that I did it.
Yeah,
And if anybody is, getting into the coaching space and wants to coach, I never, if you don't have a client base, don't quit your job. You should build
no,
that up until like you get to a point where you're comfortable, and that everybody's level of comfortability is different, but whatever that comfortability mark is, you need to get there and then go all in and spend all your time because you will stress yourself out
yep.
trying to like pay bills and live a lifestyle when if you only got 5, 10 clients. So
And I was basing a lot of that off of, I mean, I was, and for those of you who don't know, which I'm sure a lot of you don't, I worked in a laboratory setting at a water treatment facility. So a lot of my time was downtime. I was pretty much sitting down, watching screens, making sure things didn't go wrong. So I had time to work on my business, but if I had, a potential client who wanted to hop on the phone call, and talk about things, I mean, I was having to the responsibility toward the job that I had was kind of getting in a little bit of a limbo. If I had a client who was wanting to sign up, get started, but I had an alarm go off, I had to stop, explain to the client, hey, this isn't my full time job. Let me call you back.
yeah,
And that was kind of iffy. Like I didn't want to do that, but at that point in time, that was still my obligation to that the facility that I was at. So I had to do that first. So at that point, when it got to the point of where I had to stop my coaching stuff to fulfill other people's duties. I was like, no, it's just time to go.
yeah, yeah.
So
Well, I'd say it's a good move. You're
yeah,
still
yeah,
doing it,
yeah,
still rocking and rolling.
yeah. This
So
September will be 3 years of completely full time.
yeah,
So
most people can't make it a year or two. I
yeah,
mean, they just shut it down.
yeah,
It's a tough business, but you when you
yep,
find your market, it works. So, I want to get into a little bit of some nutritional topics
yeah,
for these guys. So, um, of course, I want to get your thoughts on. Let's start off with just the different diet styles. Like, what's your thoughts on things like keto or the carnivore diet's pretty hyped up right
yep,
now, or even just low carb in general? I think most people's concept is I need to eliminate all carbs for me to lose weight.
yeah.
So I'm sure when you get on calls, you talk about that a lot. So what's your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I mean those specialty diets they do have a place, I would say. It's not something that I particularly like say like, hey, we're going to do this initially, but if somebody has some major health issues to where going keto for a short amount of time, or doing carnivore or doing a lower carb diet is going to help them progress a little faster to get us to where that we can then do a more of a balanced approach, I guess is the best way to put it, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think where a lot of people go wrong is they see carnivore 2.0 or the new keto that's going to drop next month, whatever, and they go all in on it, but they don't understand that every diet has to have an exit strategy,
Yeah.
and there is no exit strategy for keto or carnivore. It's essentially an elimination diet. You're eliminating one big portion of the macronutrients just completely out. And I mean, there could be an exit strategy to that, but it's not to the point to where you're going to be able to continue to use those long term. I guess is the best way to put it. I mean, I like bread, I like rice. I had some earlier today. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no way that I would want to live without it. But I think again, those things can work and they do have applications. But if you're just starting one of those diets for the sole purpose of let me get as much weight off of my frame as fast as possible, the most unsustainable way,
Yeah.
well, anything that comes fast is probably going to leave fast.
Yeah.
So, it's I'm more of a fan, as you know, of a more balanced approach, but they do have applications in certain aspects, but um it's not a one size fits all model for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. No, I'm on the same page as you. We a lot of people that come to us, they've tried other things. I've even talked to people that have done keto was really like a big one, especially like a couple years ago that people would
Hmm.
come and I would ask them, if you don't, take a different approach, like what are you going to do? And they're like, well, I'm just going to do keto again. And I'm like, why would you do keto again? They're
Yeah.
like, well, it worked. But the question becomes, you dropped the weight and gained it all back. So did it really
Yeah.
work?
No.
And no, and it comes down to the fact, like you said, there's no exit strategy and it's not sustainable long term. But there are time frames that you can implement it. I think I mean, we'll try different strategies with people for short periods of time to see if it helps in certain
Yeah.
situations. Um, we do a little bit of carb cycling,
Yeah.
as well. I like that style personally. It's not for everybody,
Yeah.
but we are able to kind of gauge the client and say this is a good fit or not,
Yeah.
because it can completely like sabotage people sometimes as well.
Yeah.
But in general, right now, if there's somebody listening that's they're doing something, right? They're following some sort of plan or they're making healthier choices and they're stuck and they're not seeing their weight drop. What are some things that you could tell them to look at or think about to try to get them past that plateau?
Yep. So initially, the first thing right off the bat that I would have you do is track everything that you're doing. Your intake has to be looked at. Um, 9 times out of 10, the people that I talk to, they're either A, not eating enough, or B, they're eating way too much, and they have no clue on what end of the spectrum that they are. Um, I mean, that's for me, that's the biggest thing, especially with people who are just here, come to me or you to make a change, drop 20, 30 pounds and say, 6 months to a year or something. The biggest thing is going to be figuring out that nutrition side of things. And if you have no idea what you're intaking, then how do you know what's actually working and what's not? It's just like if you, if you take your car to the mechanic shop and you just say drop it off and say fix it. I mean, they don't know what's wrong.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you need to, give them some information and say, hey, I was driving up the road, it started making this noise XYZ. Okay, that's the first place that I would start looking, right?
yeah,
You just got to understand that there needs to be some context with what you're doing. Just eating healthy isn't good enough. Eating healthy can be either very under eating or your eating healthy is actually not eating healthy. It's probably in a surplus. It could be.
yeah, yeah.
So,
That'd be the
um,
thing I would say too. Like you can gain weight eating
oh
healthy.
yeah, yeah,
You know?
absolutely. And I will say, I'm more of a fan of. I mean, and this doesn't shy me away from helping. A person who does this or a person who doesn't. But I'm a fan of helping somebody who has never tried a diet before.
Mm,
Um, just because, I mean, it's a known fact that the more times that you fail a diet, you're worse off before, well, you're worse off after that diet ends. If you think about it, if you tried keto and you lost 60 pounds and then you gained 70 of it back, right? Well, at that point in time, you just gained, let's just call it a net of 10 extra pounds, right? Is all of that fat? Probably not, but let's just say 5 pounds of it is, right?
mm.
But at that point, you now have a higher number of fat cells that you didn't have prior to trying keto. And once you get a fat cell, it's never going to go away unless you get liposuction or things like that.
Yeah,
So I like when people come to me and say, "Yeah, man, I mean, I've never really tried keto. I've really tried carnivore. I've never really tried anything."
yeah,
It's just like if you were to work at a job and you did it this way at this job for 20 years and then you went to another facility who makes the exact same product, well, their processes are going to be a little bit different. It's
mhm,
harder to break this person from their old habits as to just plugging a new person in and teaching them from the ground up.
yeah.
So that's kind of the way that I see it.
No, for
But
sure. I mean, that's the cool thing. I mean, I know Austin. I know how he coaches his clients too, and it's very individualized when the person comes because you'll have people that come with a little bit of experience. There'll come people that have
yep,
never even looked at nutrition in their
yep,
life. They don't even know what a carb or fat or protein
yeah,
is or
yeah,
a macro. You tell them a macro, they're like, "What's a macro?"
yeah,
And
yeah,
and that's okay, right? That's what we're
yeah,
here to
yeah,
help you. Um, so for somebody that, let's say somebody comes to you and has no clue what to do, Like, what's if someone comes and they sign up with you, what's kind of like the first thing you would tell them to do to get them on the path?
So I guess so. Like if we're talking in like context of like like of working with me or like what I'm needing from them, I make them fill out an initial questionnaire.
Mm.
It's essentially just giving me a ton of info. What have you done in the past? I mean, I want to see. Have you done anything in the past that has helped you, has hindered you? What's your day-to-day activity like? Are you a nurse who's on her feet all day, or are you working in an office job who barely gets 2,000 steps a day? I need to see kind of what your background is with everything, and then from there, just like we discussed earlier, you're going to be tracking your food in some way, shape, or form. If you've never used My Fitness Pal or Chronometer, that's okay. You can just take a picture of everything that you eat and say, "Hey, I just ate, you know, spaghetti and meatballs and a Diet Coke." Okay,
Yeah,
cool. That's going to be a little more work for me because I have to try to figure out, what does this meal contain? But I got to get an idea. Hey, is Chris eating 2,000 calories a day, or is Chris eating 6,000 calories a day?
yeah,
Because if we just guess, if you go into any calorie calculator online, it'll give you a guesstimation
yeah,
of
yeah,
where you're at. But if you've been chronically dieting for 2 years straight, eating 900 calories a day, that calorie estimator online is going to be way off.
yeah.
So you got to have that metric of where you're at currently to know where to go from there.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think it's important to know that those are estimations because it
yes,
doesn't take into account your metabolic profile, your
mm,
hormones. So that's, another, I will kind of touch on that in a little bit.
yep,
But, for someone, lastly, with like the nutritional side of things, because we have people that do this too, that come to you and I don't want to eat the same thing every day.
yeah,
I want something different.
yeah.
What's your thoughts and approach on that?
That's fine. I mean, it has to be sustainable for them long term. Now if you're a contest prep client and you're 6 weeks out from
Yeah.
a show, I mean, you know what you're signed up for.
Yeah.
But if you're a lifestyle client, you don't have to eat the same thing every day. That's why that I prefer to give a set meal plan with the macros listed for each meal
Hmm.
as well too. And then it comes into question, well, what if they don't know how to do macros? That's okay. I'll teach you how to do them.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
And it's pretty basic math. A lot of people get maybe overstimulated or intimidated when trying to do macros, but it's really not that hard. It's just like riding a bike. Once you get it, you'll never ever forget how to do it. Um, so
Yeah. No, that's kind of where I was wanting you to go with it because for someone that wants that, for us, as somebody's like, hey, I don't want to eat the same thing every day, cool. But if you don't understand a baseline of how to track and calories and
yeah,
macros, you're at that point, you're just kind of pissing in the wind.
yeah,
So, we typically like to bring people in, get them on a baseline. So we call it like a meal cadence.
yeah,
Are you going to eat 3 times a day, 4 times a day?
yep,
Whatever works for your schedule. We do the same thing, kind of like meals, calories, macro breakdown, but I like to like slowly introduce it to them versus just kind of throw it to them
yeah,
in the sense of like, okay, let's find, your breakfast and lunch that you like,
yep,
and then dinner, you choose. Just
yes,
keep it in this range.
yep,
And that kind of gets them to test the waters. And then over time, then they're able to like kind of do it themselves. But without like educating your clients on this, they'll never figure it out,
yeah. I mean, you're setting them up for failure just right out of the gate.
Yeah.
One big thing that I'm a big fan of too is, I mean, a lot of questions. Well, one of the big questions that I have, is am I going to have to stop eating, you know, dinner with my wife and 2 kids at night, right? If I'm sitting to this set meal plan, how do I do that? And one big, avenue that I like to take, well, let's back up. Number one, they have to know how to track macros in some capacity, right? And they have to have some control over what they're eating, right? But that being one big question kind of made me kind of dig deep and say, yeah, if this is going to be sustainable for this person, what can we do here? So typically in a setting like that, let's just say if they got 4 meals a day, um, breakfast, lunch, and a midday snack, those are going to be controlled, right? They're going to more than less eat something similar to that, if not that, every day. But dinner time comes, and the wife and kids wants a hamburger and fries and steak, whatever. You have a set of macros that you can follow,
Mhm.
and you can still enjoy that dinner with your family. Because if you don't, it's just not sustainable. You
Yeah.
might could do it for a little bit, but at some point, that desire to get healthy is going to diminish when your quality of life, you're
Yeah.
over here eating chicken and rice and green beans while your son's over here eating a hamburger and fries.
Yeah.
Like, you can partake in that stuff. It's just in moderation.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I think again, really in context, like if you're a competitor, you got to do what it takes. But even myself being married, having a kid, like you want to enjoy those kind of
yeah,
times with them. And again, it's just all moderation. I eat whatever I want for the most part, but I don't like overdo it,
yeah,
because I'm just mindful of that. So kind of shifting gears a little bit. I mean, still, we'll kind of still take the path of weight loss in general.
mhm,
Let's talk a little bit supplementation wise
yep,
and context on that. Now, I'm not going to get into like, you know, all the specifics, vitamins and minerals and things
yeah,
like
yeah,
that, but a hot hit right now is your GLP-1s,
yep,
Ozempic, semaglutide, tirzepatide,
yep,
new one, retatrutide. I don't know if you've
yep,
heard about that
yep,
one.
yep,
So, you know, are you pro con? Like, where's your headspace on that? And then also, you did I think you did a story.
yeah,
More specifically, I
yeah,
think it was insulin, which is very pretty much the same thing for the
yeah,
most part.
yeah.
Um, is it a drug or not a drug? You know?
So let's back up to the first question.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a fan of it if we have exhausted all other resources first. I mean, if you've went the traditional route of a diet, exercise, getting 10,000 steps a day, you're drinking water every day, and things are just not moving, and we've gotten blood work done, things are not happening the way that they should be. Now, let's back up and remember that we're not ever going to beat the law of thermodynamics. You got to keep that at the forefront of everything too. But if it's to the point to where like, hey, I'm 500 pounds and I need a little bit of assistance to help get it down, sure, that's totally okay. But if you're 100 and let's just say 50 pound, 60 pound lady who wants to lose 15 to 20 pounds before summertime, but you've never touched the gym, you've never ate healthy in your life, you drink Dr. Pepper every day, at that point, you need to get your lifestyle habits in control first because I guarantee you, if you do that, you're going to drop that weight. Now, if 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 it sticks around, is good, based on on your lifestyle and your choices on that aspect. And that's another thing about the GLP-1s. They're great in certain instances, but that lifestyle has to come with it too. If you're taking a GLP-1 and you're still eating like garbage. You're not getting any steps in. You're not drinking any water. I mean, there will be somewhat of an effect, but you're essentially just wasting your money at that point.
Yeah.
Just light it on fire.
Yeah.
So
Same thing. I think I don't want to call myself neutral. I think it's based on the
yeah,
circumstance,
yeah,
right? Because
exactly.
if someone's coming to you that's like 15, 20 pounds, that's not something I would suggest at all,
Yeah,
But now if you got 100 pounds,
yeah,
it could be an option. I
yeah,
mean, I think you guys got to understand, like, GLP-1s is really designed for type 2 diabetics,
yep,
but they realize that it has a powerful effect on weight loss. So it can
hmm,
really be a great tool if you know how to utilize it.
yep,
But what it's doing to the body, because you were mentioning, and most people, they're eating unhealthy, the Dr.
yeah,
Peppers, the no active lifestyle. They want something that's just going to work with no effort. And, instead of you craving food and having the food noise, that basically is going to eliminate it because it's going to eliminate the hunger hormone that's given that
yep,
sensor to the brain that says, I'm hungry, I want to eat.
yep,
That is silenced.
yeah,
So essentially, you're starving yourself at that point in
yep,
time. And so, no wonder people are going to start losing weight. You're just not eating like
yeah,
you normally would. But to what you said, when that time comes, because you got to think these products are expensive,
yeah,
they can be $6,000, $8,000 a month
yep,
to be able to take something like this. Most people don't take it forever either.
yeah,
They want to get the weight off and then stop. Well, what happens when you stop?
yeah,
That food noise comes back. You will start to eat. You didn't
yeah,
change any lifestyle habits. You're not training. And then on top of that, it can be very detrimental to your health because if you weren't doing that during that time, now there's cases of significant muscle tissue loss, osteoporosis.
bone loss. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, all
I
that stuff.
mean,
Yeah,
it comes along with starving yourself,
yeah.
essentially.
And then and then you just run the risk of you uh, just adapting your metabolism down so far that you're eating 500, 600 calories a day, and um, I eat that in 6 bites. I mean, like,
Yeah.
and some people are eating that in a full day. And then
Hmm.
if you even back up even further, I mean, the GLP-1s, one of their main I guess, selling points maybe is obviously number one, appetite suppressant, and then number two is it slows gastric emptying. And then if you're still eating like crap and you're eating, very high palatable foods, which is typically high fatty foods, you and I both know that a higher fat diet or a high fat meal is going to digest a lot slower. So you're eating a very slow digesting meal. And then number two, you're slowing gastric emptying. So yeah, it's a cascade of effects that's going to come if you don't do it the right way. I've seen some people. Um, they lose, let's just say 50 pounds, but that's not 50 pounds of fat. I mean, it's a good bit of muscle too. Their
Yeah.
face starts to sag. Like
Yeah.
it's not healthy in any capacity
You
at
look
all.
sick.
Yeah.
People start to
Yeah.
look sick.
Yeah.
I really feel like, now, I mean, this is still a prescription drug for the most part. I almost feel like these physicians need to do some sort of questionnaire to figure out their lifestyle, which I think they do to some capacity. But at the same time, if they have somebody that is completely inactive, you know, has no concept of nutrition or whatever, I feel like that they need to have somebody that can help them with that during this process
Yeah.
versus just giving them the dosages and saying, come in a month and we'll check your weight again.
Yeah.
Because long term, if they really care about this individual, like you want somebody to do well and be successful.
Yeah.
Same thing for us. Like you want to lose weight, great, just stop eating,
Yeah.
and just start running on the treadmill
Yeah.
for 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
You'll drop
Yeah.
weight and you'll look sick,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you'll probably feel horrible. So, I feel like a push needs to be more into doing things the right way. And then not, this is new actually. Um, a lot of fitness coaches now have the ability to use HSA and FSA funding,
Yep. Yep.
which is a great thing. So basically, this is where you can get your medical provider to write you a prescription
Yep.
to work with a coach,
Yep.
because now they're starting to realize that health is very more important than what it always has been.
Yep.
Because I say this all the time, in 2025, there are more resources at our fingertips than ever. You have Chat GPT, you have
Yep.
YouTube, you have Google, you have Instagram and TikTok, whether that's legitimate or not. But you have all of these sources to help you reach your goals. But our obesity rate is going up.
Which that could be stemming from analysis paralysis.
Mm,
Everybody has 20 million other options to choose from.
yeah.
And I mean, and that was one thing that I, struggled with, but before I hired a coach. I mean, do I need to try this? If I stick with this for 6 months, well, what if it's the wrong thing?
Hmm.
And then I'm 6 months behind. Okay, well, let me try this. What if it's wrong again? That's a full year wasted.
Yeah.
So that's where me and you, come in to take that aspect out of it. Because, like, I mean, you can go on Chat GPT, and I remember when that first kind of came about, that and like the GL, well, which the two instances to where I really wasn't worried about it, but I know a lot of other coaches were like, oh, Chat GPT is gonna take what we do and replace our jobs, and the GLP-1s is like a cheat code, and nobody's gonna need a coach anymore. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not the case. But now there's so much information at people's fingertips that they don't know if it's legitimate or not. I guess is what there's just so much poor information out there these days too.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably a part of it as well too.
Yeah.
So, and then going, but back to the doctor thing, I do agree with making them go through some kind of health metric, getting them to work out, eat healthy, but at the same time, if that individual doesn't like what the doctor said, there's another doctor just down the street
Hmm.
that will take
Yeah.
their money all day long.
Yeah.
So, and there's you can get that stuff without a prescription if you really wanted to,
Yeah.
like those
Hmm.
research chemicals and things like that. You can put it underneath your tongue, a sublingual, things like that. Are they as effective? I don't know, but still, people are going to find a way around it to try it if they really want to. But again, is it worth it? You're better off segueing into a healthier lifestyle first
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and trying that.
Yeah, I
So,
think like you said, try to kind of exhaust all the other options
yep,
first,
yep,
and then, that can probably catapult you past like wherever you're
mm,
stuck, but at least if you have those foundational habits built and some discipline and structure, when you do come off, you'll be able to sustain that kind of lifestyle and,
yep,
and keep the weight off inevitably.
yep,
So I think this is a very case to case basis, but I think you guys out there need to question your ability, your, education on how to actually live a healthy lifestyle,
Yeah.
and then just make a good choice, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, like you can reach out to me or Austin as well. You know, we're more than happy to help. So let's get into some physical fitness, some workout, strategies.
Okay.
Again, everybody goes into the gym, and with let's talk first with new individuals that are intimidated by the gym.
Hmm.
Most, I would say, most people are intimidated because um, they think people are staring at them.
Yeah.
I would say probably that's the most common. So how do you help clients overcome something like that?
So I think it really boils down to is what is the client comfortable at this current moment in time.
Hmm.
Um, if they're like dead set of not going to a gym, well, that's fine. That's perfectly okay. There's things that we can do at home, which isn't going to be I don't want, I hate the word most optimal
Yeah.
nowadays because everybody is using the optimal this is, but it's not the best case scenario. But things can be done at home, like using bands, a little set of dumbbells, things like that to get things going. But I think as you further progress and you kind of come out of that shell,
Hmm.
maybe, and you start to see the progress in your own self that you may end up wanting to venture out.
Yeah.
Um, and that's totally okay too. I think the biggest thing is just to make a big change, you have to get uncomfortable at some point.
Yeah.
At some point, and I will say a lot of people that haven't really been in the gym for a long time and they go to the gym, their biggest issue is not knowing where things are at,
Mm.
and they look dumb because they walk around. Where's they're looking on. Me and you both have apps that'll show them the exercise to do. Where's this machine at? It's not this color. It doesn't look like
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Well, go ask the front desk, or if we're local, I can come and help you, same with you kind of thing.
Yeah.
But just understanding that you've been comfortable for the last 30 or 40 years. That's why you are the way that you are now.
Yeah.
Let's break out of that shell a little bit and let's go try something hard
Hmm.
to make a big change.
Yeah.
So,
You got to
y-
change to
y-
change.
and that's not me trying to be like mean, like say, I'm
No.
gonna kind of push you into the ring and just see how you do.
Yeah.
It's just that sometimes they need a little bit of a push just to you know get out there.
Yeah.
I mean, like for me, I like to train at a gym to where that I'm not the biggest fish in the pond, right? If
Hmm.
that makes sense. Just like here, at the gym that we're at now, there's some elite level people there. Me and you are both pros,
Yeah.
but there's always going to be somebody bigger.
Yeah.
It's
For
going to
sure.
push me to be better. So if you're an individual that hasn't ever, been into the gym before, start out at a YMCA, a Planet Fitness. Something that's I'm not gonna say a lower barrier to entry, but a lot of those places are gonna be more newcomer friendly. I guess is the best way to put it. Just get out there. Is
Yeah.
the be- is
Yeah.
the
No, I think that's right. I think, when I have clients that want to work out at home,
Yeah,
I mean, the first one is like, what do you got?
yeah.
In a lot of people's defenses, you'd be surprised. People have
Oh yeah,
full gym setups since
yeah,
COVID.
yep,
I mean, they've been buying pieces and throwing it in the garage, and it's actually impressive. I'm a little jealous
yeah,
sometimes,
yeah,
but I like going to the gym, changing the environment, meeting people,
yep,
especially like, here at Carolina Iron. Shout out Carolina Iron. I'll give you a little shout out.
yeah,
No, but this gym's really cool because one, he has really unique equipment, but the people, right? I mean, these people that come in here have a little more experience,
yeah.
and it's actually not intimidating at all because they're more than happy to help if you were to have questions.
And I will say, people are typically afraid to ask. I'm not calling
Hmm.
myself big, or
I used to
you
be.
are big,
No,
but
yeah.
I'm not calling myself big. But people are typically afraid to ask the big guys in the gym for help. But typically, we're the most helpful people
Yeah.
if you'll ask us, because I'm eager to show you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I love to teach. I love doing what I do, and if I can help you get there faster, yeah, I'll stop what I'm doing. I'll go help you out. So
Yeah.
now there are some, there's bad apples in every
Yeah,
in
for
every
sure.
group, but 9 times out of 10, if you asked, the big guys will help you
Yeah,
for
no,
sure.
I think so. But yeah, in general, I think the more you get comfortable doing the movements and know
Yeah,
where stuff is, that tier of scarcity will definitely like shift down.
yeah,
I do think to some, even for myself, sometimes I feel like people are looking at me too, but that's just I'm in my head.
yeah.
Nobody's focused on anybody but themselves when they're lifting.
Uh,
So it's just it's something that we create in our own, and it can stop you from getting there. But hopefully we can get people to progress. Because again, let's talk about the purpose of being in the gym. My purpose that I tell people to work out is you are there to build muscle.
yeah,
Like that is the sole purpose. You're not there to burn calories. you're there to burn muscle, build muscle. And so what are some strategies for you that you could tell people to really emphasize muscle growth so they're not wasting time in here?
Yeah, I mean, be efficient. I mean, if you're building out a plan, for yourself, just make sure that you're efficient with your time. Get rid of the junk volume. Um, you don't need to do 20 sets of a certain thing to get a stimulus out of it to make muscle grow, right?
Mhm.
It's just like when you walked into this office this morning, you just cut the light switch on. You didn't keep pushing the switch up to make the light stay on. The light was on, right?
Yeah,
So if you go and hit, um, you know, 4 or 5 sets of chest and activated that stimulus for growth, why should why should you spend another hour in here and do 15 more sets? You've already cut the light switch on. It's on.
yeah,
Do what you need to do and get out. Now that's not saying that you can come in here and just do the bare minimum. Actually put forth some effort
yeah,
and create the stimulus needed for growth. But and granted, that's going to take time to master that skill as well too. But if you're coming in here as a newcomer, have a plan. Have a plan. Just don't come in here and say, "Oh, well, I did arms yesterday. I might hit chest today, or I might hit shoulders today." Nope. You need to know when you wake up that day what you're doing at the gym.
hmm,
That day, you need to know, "Hey, I'm going to do." If it's a chest day, I'm going to do chest flies, incline, decline, a flat press, and then some push ups and finish off something.
yeah,
You need to have a plan. So when you get in here, you're not, oh, well, such and such is over here is doing arms. I'm going to go hop in with him. Nope, that's not your day. I mean, now if that's something that keeps you motivated, cool,
yeah,
whatever. But just coming in here with a plan 9 times out of 10 is going to set you up for more progression
yeah,
and more progress in the long run.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and that's why honestly people skip leg days that I see because they're like, oh, it's Tuesday, it's leg day, oh, but it's raining outside, Chris. I don't want to put on my good white Converse to go leg. I'll do
Yeah.
them tomorrow. I'll do them tomorrow, and then tomorrow's chest day. Well, I can't skip chest day.
Yeah.
I'll do legs next week. Nope, you got to set to that plan.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
then you got someone that had 5, 6 knee surgeries,
yeah, yeah,
killing
yeah,
legs
yeah,
too. So, but like you said, you got to have a plan. You already kind of touched on the fact of you got to track, right? You got to know
yep,
what you're lifting.
yep.
What do you tell a client that says, "Well, how do I know when I should go up in weight?"
Um, I think it one it depends on the level and the skill of the person. One, but two, if you're a newcomer, let's just say if your coach tells you to do 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps, right?
Hmm.
Once that first top set, that first working set, that you're at the top end of that range, like you're hitting 12, 13, 14,
Hmm.
you're blowing past that rep range. Maybe stick with it one more week.
Yeah,
Make sure that you're actually blowing past that rep range, and then at that point, we'll go up in weight.
yeah,
Now if you were to do 12 or 13, and then set two, you dropped off to four.
yeah,
Well, maybe that might be cause to pull back a little bit on that second set. And again, it's all individualized, but
yeah,
that's a good point to bring up is tracking. If you don't, it's the same thing with food. If you don't know what you're eating, how do what you're doing at the end of the day? It's same with workouts. If you're not tracking, how do you know that you're progressing from last week if you can't remember in your head how many reps that you did for sets 1, 2, and 3 and what weight that you used for all 5 exercises that day? You're not.
yeah,
You're not. And now I know some people um, don't track at all, but when I look at pro bodybuilders who do track their stuff,
yeah.
just like me with an old pen and piece of paper, that I probably should. It would probably help.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know,
Some form.
yeah,
Clients ask us, I mean, obviously stick to the staples and make sure that your form is good first
yeah,
before you start trying to amp up. But
yeah,
we use kind of like a 2 rep rule.
yeah,
So kind of similar to what you
yeah,
said. If they're doing 3 sets, 10 to 12,
yep,
on that very last set, if they can do at least two more reps,
yeah,
at least for 2 weeks,
yeah,
then go up. And
yeah,
then kind of same going backwards as well, because someone might say, hey, well, I only hit 8 reps on that last set. Should I back off? I'm like, no. If
yeah,
you're 2 reps away from the goal
yeah,
rep on that last set,
yeah,
you're good.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I think that will help you really stimulate some muscle growth in that path.
Well, then you got to keep in mind too that if we're really training at a large capacity and you're training to failure, which again, that does take years to acquire to actually understand fully how to train to failure. If you got 13 on the first set, it's physically impossible to get 13 on the next set.
Yeah.
I mean, now granted, they're I don't want to say physically impossible, but for the most part,
Hmm.
you're not gonna get. I mean, if my 13 rep looks like that I'm having an aneurysm or something, I'm not gonna get it again.
Yeah.
So that's you got to keep progressing, and the only way to know that you're actually progressing is tracking it.
Mhm.
I mean, because I know several individuals, friends of mine, who don't track at all, and they've been the same size for years. They go in the gym and just get a pump
Yeah.
big enough to take a picture on Instagram, and then they're out.
Yeah. That might be good enough to maybe maintain where
Yeah,
you're at, but
yeah,
if that's what you're cool with, then do that.
yeah,
But
for sure.
if you wanna really kind of sculpt and build, get more detail,
Yeah,
you gotta push yourself. You gotta challenge yourself. So,
and people also forget too that I mean, even if you're a lifestyle client and you're coming to lose 20 or 30 pounds, um, our goal number one is fat loss. Number two is we have to build muscle
mm,
because muscle with more muscle it becomes a better metabolism and a higher metabolism.
mhm,
So if you can eat more,
yeah,
right? And that's the big aspect. I mean, sure, can you get in shape without going to the gym? Absolutely, you
yeah,
can. But your results are going to be tenfold if you can get to the gym and do some sort of resistance training. Do you have to be perfect? No. You just getting in there is good enough for the majority of folks. But then again, once we fine tune things and you make progression in the right direction, that's when things start to flourish and big transformations, at least on my perspective, start to happen. So
yeah, yeah, dude, that's a ton. I mean, I hope you guys wrote a lot down with this whole conversations because I like having these kind of talks. But
yeah,
it's cool because there's a lot of coaches out there. Everybody has their own little method or their style or their beliefs. And me and Austin definitely have a lot of alignment in there. And Austin's had a lot of high level coaches. I've had a lot of high level coaches as well. I think, last thing I want to kind of give you guys is, Austin, kind of what would you suggest? Like somebody's looking for a coach. Um, what are some things you would tell them to look at or look into to make sure that it's a good fit for them?
yeah. So first, number one, I mean, I would make sure that I don't want to say our belief systems line up, but
Mm,
let's make sure that we're both working toward the same goal. And I think that's important to figure out in the form of maybe like hopping on a call. I mean, even if a phone call, a Zoom call, something. I need to make a personal connection with this coach. I mean, if I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars a month to coach me, I'm going to have to know that I can trust you first,
hmm.
or that I actually like you as a person.
Yeah.
So I think number one, if your coach or if your coach prospect has a way that you can hop on the phone with them, hop on a Zoom call, meet them face to face, whatever, take advantage of that.
Mhm.
See if you actually jive with their personality first.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's important. Think back to school. If you had a teacher that you got along with very well, your grades were probably pretty good in that class.
Hmm.
But if you and that teacher always butted heads, your grades probably weren't that good,
Yeah. Yeah.
in comparison to the other class. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, just make sure that they can get you to where that you need to be. Just because somebody has a good physique doesn't mean that they can get you to
Mm,
where that you want to be. Um, I mean, a lot of people are just some people are just genetically gifted with um, from birth, I guess is the best way to put it. It doesn't mean that they know how to sculpt somebody who's been chronically dieting for 2 years in a row. They're insulin resistant. They have a skew of issues. Um, just make sure that you do your due diligence. Reach out to any testimonials, if they have them on their page. That's
mhm.
another big thing. If they don't have anything on their page, it's nothing but flexing pictures and I mean, make sure that your coach has the knowledge, and the testimonials to back it up, the proof
Yeah.
that they can get you to where that you want to be. So
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I mean, I think kind of just recap that. I mean, obviously you got to connect because people can do things. You can lose weight, right, by like doing it the right way,
mhm,
having a structure, tracking metrics,
yep,
and you can lose weight by just slamming a bunch of drugs or doing an
yep,
ass of cardio and
yep,
not eating,
yep,
right? the outcome would probably be the same in a weight loss perspective,
Yeah.
but which one is going to be better for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
That's pretty obvious. And then same thing, like you said, not everybody's a good coach.
Yeah.
I used to work in the restaurant business, and I remember this one guy came in and he was a chef and he was good. He was damn good, but he couldn't teach anybody to be like him for the life of him.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
he just didn't have that personality.
Yeah.
He just expected people to know things,
Yeah.
and that's okay. He's not meant to
Yep.
coach people, and
Yep.
and again, I think some coaches are like that, but and yeah, testimonials, bro.
Yeah.
Like, because you can obviously reach out to people if they're tagged or if you see a video and maybe somebody because they're local, um, but I have seen, I'm not gonna say any names, but sometimes I've seen some transformations that look like they were taken the same day,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's
Lighting can do a lot for people.
yeah, yeah,
Time of day can do a lot for people. So make sure that there's more than one or two transformations. Reach out to those people.
yeah,
Um, I mean, if you're paying good money to be coached, just do your due diligence.
yeah,
At
yeah,
that point, it's on you. It's on you.
yeah, for
If
sure.
if you don't do your due diligence and you have a bad experience with a coach, and you did everything that you were asked to do, um, but you and the coach didn't jive well for some reason or whatever the case may be, it's on you at that point.
Yeah, I want
So
to leave it with this too, because I have a client that I'm working with right now that used to be with another coaching group, and a decent one for that matter. But I know a lot of you guys may get into one and maybe it's your first one and you're like, it didn't work. Coaching is a waste of money. I
oh
don't ever
yeah,
want to do it again.
yep,
I mean, did you marry the first person you ever met?
yeah,
I think the key would to be you probably learned something in there, which is
yep,
good. But if anything, you know what you're looking for in the next one to help you progress.
yep,
Because I think as you gain knowledge and experience, you don't need basic information. There's something specific you're looking for
yeah,
that's going to help you get you to where you want to be. So then you can have a more direct conversation with that coach to figure it out.
yep.
So just because you get burned once doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It's just the wrong person.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a coach. Some people feel like, oh, I can do this on my own. They're too prideful to have a coach. I mean, I have a coach. I've had a coach for going on 8 years in a row.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing, but I like to have that outside perspective
Yeah.
to tell me, what I need to do. You've had, several coaches,
Yeah.
when you were competing. I mean, there's no shame in it.
No, no.
Um, I tell people all the time, Tiger Woods has a swing coach. So you think that you don't need a coach? Like, okay,
Yeah, yeah,
so
no, 100%. And that we're talking athletes here because I had coach for being an athlete. You're an
yep,
athlete as well, a pro athlete. But let's talk baseline level. I think your ego and your pride at how long are you willing to sustain not getting results before you finally say, okay, enough's enough.
yeah,
Don't wait 10, 20, 30 years. If you've gave effort and you tried for a year, 2 years, and you're not seeing nothing, I would highly suggest you start looking for outside resources because what you're doing is just not working
no.
and you don't want to waste time. You don't want to waste time.
Or we're not getting any younger.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I mean, and in all honesty, probably in the last 2 or 3 years, I've really reflected on my bodybuilding career as a whole, or my just fitness uh, adventure in a whole. And I know that this isn't possible. Hindsight's 2020. But if I could go back, I would have hired my coach day one when I started the gym. I would be a lot further along
Yeah.
than where I am right now. Because again, going back to the beginning of the episode, I use bodybuilding.com. I
Yeah.
use
Yeah.
YouTube. I tried to do everything on my own, but I couldn't take that emotional connection out of when I needed to make a change in my own program to keep seeing results. And that's where a coach can come in. Now, I'm not saying this to people to say, hire me or Chris. I mean, if you want to, man, that's cool.
Yeah, we're here.
Just you know, I just flip a coin.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Link in description.
yeah.
We'll do a raffle.
But just you got to give it a good shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Awesome. Well, man, I really appreciate you jumping on here with
absolutely.
us. Where can people follow you?
Hit up my Instagram. It's a Hodges underscore fit. I'm sure Chris will link it somewhere,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
We'll plug it in.
that's the best way to get in contact with me. And also you can check out our website, ahfitnessonline.com,
Okay.
and that's pretty much it.
Cool.
So
Yeah. We'll link all that stuff in the descriptions. So appreciate you guys shining in. Hope you got some good nuggets. See you on the next.
Absolutely. Yeah, man.
All right. Thanks, Awesome.
See you.